All right, we are live. Snakes and Stogies, episode 86. Unfortunately, Justin is tied up this evening, so I will be doing the show solo. But we're joined by a very special guest, Mr. Brian Hughes from Rattlesnake Solutions in Arizona. Before we say hello, Brian.
How's it going? Thanks for
Make sure your audio's. Yeah, sorry, the audio is a little delayed. My apologies. Yeah, we can hear you pretty good.
We have a storm coming through right now, so if I disappear, it's because of that.
Okay, no worries, man. No worries. As always, again, we're brought. Oh, see the rattlesnakes in the background. I love it. Tonight's show is brought to you, as always, by the fine folks, the Gendra at Puget Sound Pythons. Check them out. They're up there, if I can do that correctly. Any kind of pythons, colubrids, all kinds of fun stuff. Check them out. There are our sponsors. Again, for those of you chiming in a little bit late, Justin got tied up tonight, so I'll be flying this ship solo. But we have a very cool guest, a guest that I've actually been watching for a while, and Mr. Brian Hughes of Rattlesnake Solutions. Let's jump right into it, man.
Sure. I had to fix my Wi-Fi for a second. It's good now, though. I can hear you a lot better.
That's all right. So let's hear a little bit about you, man. I mean, I'm pretty sure that you and I actually have a mutual friend, Rachel Pickstein.
Yeah, I know Rachel. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Friend. Yeah. She's a very eccentric one, but she's a good friend. She loves snakes and
super far from. Well, I used to live actually kind of near her, so we've been. I think the last. Her pool party was the first post-COVID party that I went to.
Oh, nice.
Know Rachel decently.
Excellent.
Yeah, so
excellent.
I started out doing herping. I mean, a lot of us do that. I'm not sure who all kind of what your target audience is, but I imagine there's herpers in it. A lot of people that do field herping, but Arizona's awesome for that.
Oh yeah.
I started a business, so I get to do that professionally now, which is great. A good example of the way this whole balance works is, the other night I went out to go do some field research. I brought some friends with me. We found 20 something rattlesnakes, or no, actually maybe less. That's the total count. And then I came while we were leaving. I got a call from somebody to come catch a rattlesnake in their yard. So I went there, and it was a mother with a bunch of babies. So I caught them, and then I went home. By the time I got home, it was like 3:30 in the morning, and I decided to walk around my yard, and I found a diamondback. So this whole rattlesnake thing is all day, every day for me now.
Very cool.
It's great. Yeah,
that's awesome. There's a hell of a collection behind you, man, and we'll definitely get into that a little later.
Sure.
I almost totally forgot, and there's some people asking. Normally when we do this, Justin and I, it's Snakes and Stogies, we're both tobacco enthusiasts. We usually talk about the smokes that we're smoking that evening. Tonight, because it's such a bold show with a bold guest taking care of bold animals, I went with the Serie B God of Fire in a Maduro Robusto. So for those of you curious, that's what's getting smoked tonight. I'm sure Justin is having a cigar wherever he may be, but I don't know what it is, so you'll have to blow him up later and ask him. But so, Brian, how'd you get into rattlesnakes, man, or herps in general?
Probably same story everybody has. When you're a kid, you like dinosaurs and stuff, and dinosaurs are. You might not know this. All dinosaurs are dead, so it's a bummer if that's your thing when you're a kid. And then there's reptile books, and then there's reptiles in your yard, and it progresses. And I moved to Phoenix, and if you live here, you're probably into rattlesnakes if you're into reptiles.
Nice.
And tended to obsess over it a little bit. So, and if you are talking to reptile people, there's obsessing over it to maybe the point where it's right on the edge of ruining your life is a familiar story. So I'm happy I was able to kind of turn it into my living now.
Very cool, man. Very cool. So I found you guys, and I'll say you guys like Rattlesnake Solutions as a whole, because I know there's many cogs to this, Swiss watch that you're running. I was just scrolling around on Instagram and I saw, I don't know, remember what the hashtag was, but it was like, safe snake removal or something. And I wound up clicking it, excuse me. And it was just a bunch of your videos and pictures. And I was like, man, this is awesome, because there's so many nuisance wildlife removal people out there, but no one was doing it in the methodical herper way that I see you guys doing it, in terms of using the right tools and the right transport containers and educating the people on scene. So many people are like, oh yeah, this is a gopher snake. Yeah, it can't hurt you. Thanks for the money. Bye. And it's like, you guys take the time to talk to the homeowner or the person that called, and give them a little backstory and tell them what they can do. And then you all guys also do the rattlesnake fencing, which I think is really amazing. So yeah. Yeah,
it's that's, I mean, it's the right way to do it. And it's even just as a business and marketing perspective, it helps us out there too. I mean, it's like if your car breaks down, I don't know if you're a mechanic or not. I'm not.
No, I'm not.
My
Definitely
car,
not.
something goes wrong with it, and I need to call a mechanic. My stress that I'm feeling about that is not about the broken car. It's about going through this cycle that I need to get into now with some guy that I don't know if they're telling me the truth, or I don't know if I'm getting charged the right amount and all that stuff. So if you're a mechanic, there's a very easy business model there. Just make your entire thing around about not being that, like easing that anxiety. And snakes are something that people fear. So it comes with its own business model. The more that you can address the real topic, snakes are not the problem. The problem is that we are building cities in habitat and destroying things like crazy, and our culture hates and fears snakes and creates this kind of culture of unwanted encounter, of conflict and of fear.
Yeah.
I mean, if you speak to that, then the catching snake parts and us making money and all that kind of, it just comes with it. And it's easier, it's better, it's honest to do it that way, because you're not going from a script. It's just how most of us probably feel about these things. So
yeah, there isn't like a spiel that you give the same person every time for the same snake. It's catered to the individual species and the circumstances that you're presented with.
Yeah, and everyone's different. I think my first one today was somebody's yard. She had a little diamondback rattlesnake in her backyard, and she had an awesome attitude about it. She was mostly concerned about the snake's safety and making sure that it gets back out there okay. Those are always good ones. And
yeah,
and then while I'm running that one, another member of my crew is dealing with somebody that is imagining a snake that is not really in her car, but it is, and then other people are calling us and sending us pictures of the snake they just cut the head off to no way, stuff like that. So it's this big mixed bag. There's no one way you can handle it.
Yeah, and you guys get calls every day, especially this time of the year.
We get a lot of calls every day, between 5 and 25, depending on what, today was a normal day. Wow. I didn't even check the log, but we probably ran 15 or so between here and Phoenix, and it's getting dark in an hour. So we can expect that to go up by maybe another 50% before the day's through.
Yeah, I know on your website, you give the hours of operation, so to speak, but then at the same time, you guys have the emergency response numbers is 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's all the same thing.
Do you personally answer all 24/7, 365, or do you guys have like shifts that you do?
We are too busy for it. So we are of this type of service. As far as we can tell, we are the busiest in the world that does this. We get a lot of calls. So in the day between sun up and 5 p.m. we have a dispatcher, and the dispatcher runs calls, so we can be running at any given time we're running 2 or 3 or 4 calls simultaneously. In the evening shift, we have other people that kind of jump on that are more part-timers, and then we have a set number of people that are on overnight. The overnights are kind of a fun shift because you have to go everywhere in the entire city, but there's no traffic. So, I do kind of miss that from when I was younger, the fun of, I had a day job at the time, but yet it's 2:30 in the morning and I'm driving much faster than is legal with music that is much louder than is safe for your ears to go do something that is not safe, and it's very fun.
That's the way to do it, though, right?
Yeah.
Let it be known on Snakes and Stogies podcast, we do not condone speeding and/or loud music at late hours of the evening to retrieve said snakes.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. It wasn't recent.
So a long time ago. It was about 8 months ago. So yeah, man, I feel like normally my co-host Justin's here. We do a little bit of banter. We have a little bit of this and that, but there's so much that I'm intrigued with you and the business and the beautiful animal enclosures you have behind you. So how long have you been doing, I mean, like legit doing the rescue thing and predominantly working with rattlesnakes and a lot of venomous stuff?
Around 20 years. So I started out doing volunteer work with the Arizona Herpetological Association, and I was obviously very, very new back then and just kind of wanted to, I think a lot of people are probably like this when you discover that there's other people that like reptiles. It's easier now that there's that, but I remember, when I was 20, seeing, we just called it looking for snakes. You go run around and look for snakes. And then I discovered that there was this group of people that did this, and you can go buy a snake hook. It's not something that's just like on, unlike wherever scientists buy things, it's a thing.
Right.
So I got a snake hook and did all that stuff, but it progressed pretty quick, and I started running relocation calls for them. And in 2008, after that recession, I was an art director at a tech company, and got laid off like a lot of people did. So it was kind of this all skills on deck thing. Like what do I know how to do to pay my rent this next month? What skills do I have to do? And I knew how to make businesses, and I knew how to catch snakes. I'm like, well, there it is. I mean, I should do that. So
100%, man.
Yeah. So 10 years we've been growing. The original at the beginning it was a lot slower, but now it keeps me insanely busy during much of the year.
Yeah, and so you're in Tucson, but you cover Tucson and Phoenix?
I'm in Phoenix. I'm actually in a place called Cave Creek that's just north of Phoenix, but we have a separate crew that's in Tucson and a separate hotline. We have a crew that's in Prescott, Sedona area that has one guy on it right now, and gonna be hiring another one soon. So, and we have around 30 employees right now. So it's no longer, we're kind of turned from a small business into kind of a medium-ish sized, it's still pretty small, but for a reptile business, 30 employees is a decent sized thing to be moving around.
It's very impressive.
Thanks. It's fun. I just do whatever I want now, which is I think what we all want to do, right? Just kind of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the perks of supervising is you have less physical work per se, but you're pulled in 50 different directions. And I'm sure you have those days where you just want to go drive and just catch a snake, and not have to.
That's all I want to do a lot of the times. I mean, in the hour preceding this, I'm just dealing with a lot of like employee things happening, and and that's how that goes. Eventually, all jobs, even the most fun jobs, become jobs at some point. But I still get to take the time I need to when I need to do it. And, even though that I need to catch up later, I still don't have a boss. So all that's good. That's all good stuff.
Yeah, very much so, man. That's fantastic. That's awesome. I was just looking at, you were talking about the snake fencing, and I never really noticed people have that. I mean, I know it's more prominent in the Southwest of the U.S. Nobody down by me, I'm in Florida, nobody down by me has anything like that. Yeah. But you want to elaborate on that a little bit, because it looks like you guys do like the full installation, and there's different grades and different, I guess packages, if you will.
It's pretty simple, really, and it's a fence that keeps snakes out, and we don't attach it to anything. It's like the fence that's behind you. You have that might be a window I'm looking at, but a really popular thing here in Arizona is a thing called a view fence. It's like this iron bar fence that goes around the yard. If you attach materials to it so rattlesnakes can't climb up and over it, then they can't get in. The trick is to make it so that, rattlesnakes can climb. They're not the best climbers, and they can do better if they're encouraged to do it, right? So like what I usually talk to people about is the grocery store. If like I can't climb on top of the grocery store, I don't have that skill. But if that's where they kept the food and that's the only food, I'm going to be figuring out how they climb onto the grocery store. And backyards, the same thing. Just make it really hard for them. And unless they're exceptionally motivated to do it, they're not going to come in there. So, some of it's harder, like swing gates and moving parts and anything that needs to kind of come together, because a baby rattlesnake, a newborn sidewinder can fit through a gap 1/3 of an inch wide.
Wow.
So imagine having a 20-foot rolling gate that needs to scissor close to 1/4 of an inch. And that's what we got to do. So a lot of it's specialty work. All of our crew needs to know a lot about rattlesnakes. That's one of our biggest challenges, is hiring, because we can't you can't just get somebody, even someone that's like an artisan welder and an iron worker that knows how to build these fences. You need to be able to look at all these little situations and go, can a neonate rattlesnake get through that? And if you haven't seen enough of them doing things, I mean, half of our installers keep rattlesnakes as well. So we have, it's an all-in kind of thing. It's become a larger and larger part of our business. It's not something I find as fun, but it does. The goal of finding a solution to this whole problem, right? Of somebody has a yard and they're scared of snakes, and we want to keep them safe and keep the snakes' heads on their bodies. They're all part of the same thing. They don't care if they're on the other side of the fence. So you're dealing with, between the patio and the other side of the fence, you're dealing with 20 feet. You're trying to keep a snake 20 feet away from the place it would like to be. It makes the whole conservation challenge seem a little more, digestible that way when you have some tools like that.
Yeah, it's fascinating, man. I was scrolling through like pictures, some of your gallery and stuff, and obviously the Instagram page. The Instagram page is awesome. I love the first person view, with the camera on the Gentle Giant tongs. Like that's super cool, man. I mean, I've seen a couple people do it before, but you guys are really like getting it. I like it.
Yeah, we get a lot of we get a lot of stuff for content. I mean, we have everyone 20 rattlesnakes a day, and we have to organize it so that it's all fed out. And like we don't even post all the snakes we catch. Some of them just aren't. They're not interesting, or I don't know how many super muddy atrox do you see in the bottom of a bucket. We just try to. One of the cool things that we have noticed that the Instagram and other content that we've made is having this effect is this context training with people, where we've seen that people that have, they don't see snakes in their yard. Snake is hiding under a bush in their yard or in the gravel or something. It's camouflage. They don't see it. So by looking at all these pictures that we take when we get to the site, as soon as we see the snake, we try to take a photograph right there of how it's sitting. By people looking at those over and over again, they build a search image, and they've been able to see snakes in the yard that they don't feel like they would have been able to otherwise. So there's something to that. I don't know exactly how to use it other than just to keep posting these photos. Maybe something to teach kids how to see snakes better.
Sure.
So they can stay safe, but I don't know. Yeah, the photos have a ton of use and things like that.
Yeah, there was one where I guess is it Marissa? Excuse me.
Marissa, yeah.
Marissa. So, I noticed there was one where it was a gopher snake in like a stone flower bed, and the snake's like almost 4.5, 5 feet long. And when you first look at it, the camera's showing you this rocky, crushed, lava rock flower bed, and you're like, what am I looking at here? And you're expecting to see like the balled up atrox in the corner, and the snake is literally stretched out in front of you. And it isn't until she actually touches the gopher snake or the bull snake that it moves, and you see it, and you're like, wow, that I would have never seen that, and I'm one of the guys looking for him, so
yeah,
it's
the pattern
super
works. It does. It's made to break up even when it's on just concrete or something, that the camouflage that's made to just break up the shape, like that digital camo type thing. It works really well. And we get, occasionally, actually more than occasionally, there are more than one snake at a place. And the times that I've considered, things that are a close call are when you reach down to pick up that gopher snake, and while you're down there, you look, and there's your knuckle is right off the nose of a big diamondback that you didn't even see because have you ever seen that video of like these kids are bouncing a basketball, and they ask you to count the number of times that they bounce the ball, and then when it's done, they say,
Okay.
"Did you see the gorilla?" And that's what.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like you didn't see it because you were tasked with bouncing the ball. So that happens to us sometimes. We have to, we're so caught up in like looking for the snake that we don't see snakes. That happens.
There was I did a situational awareness training one time back in college, and they basically were studying kids and younger kids who had a curfew, and essentially what's going through the psyche of a kid who's late coming home and how he's going to get chewed out by mom and dad. And they put you in the front seat of a car and they say, all right, tell me, and you're in the passenger seat, there's a driver in the driver's seat. The driver has the little clipboard with the notes and says, tell me when it's 9 p.m. And you're just sitting there. You're looking out the window, you're playing with the radio, whatever, And then finally you're like, all right, it's 9 p.m. And they go, okay, how many times did a motorcycle drive by? And you're like, what? And it's very similar, man. Very similar.
Yeah. I mean, that's just being safe in the field too. I mean, do you do any, you get in the field decently?
I do. I try to as much as I can. The problem is the majority of the wilderness around me is a lot of private property. And even though it may be easily accessible, you still respect, the property owner and don't trespass and do that kind of stuff. So we do a lot of road cruising, We have what's called the wildlife management areas, or WMAs, which is public hunting and recreational land. And we'll do a lot of hiking through there and stuff. But there's a lot of snakes in Florida, but most of them are not communal in any way. And the odds of you finding one or more in one single spot is almost slim to none, just because there is such a diversity of good places to be. You know what I mean? Our rattlesnakes don't den like yours do.
It's hard. When I go to Florida, I don't know what the hell to do, because where's your rocks? Where do you guys keep your rocks? Because I can't find your mountains, and I know the way that thermodynamics work. I understand. You also have this water stuff there that we don't really have a lot of.
There's just a little bit of water, just a little bit.
So the stuff that works out here, and really anywhere in the desert Southwest, I can find speckled rattlesnake. That's actually one of the I research these animals in a number of capacities outside of just herping, and that's one of the top things we do is look for speckled rattlesnakes and tiger rattlesnakes in estivation areas, and they can reproduce that very well. And then I go to Florida and I'm road cruising and I have no idea. I'm like trying to Google what a stump hole is and figuring out how this thing all works. It's just such a amazingly different environment. They're still snakes, but wow, how do you start?
Yeah, and it's crazy because the small amount of field herping I've done on the Southwest. I mean, I've herped with Rachel in where did we go? We went to Tonto National Forest and we did the Lost Dutchman, and then I just recently did some stuff with the NPR boys in West Texas, and it's amazing the temperature you guys have out there and how it's well in excess of 130 degrees on the rocks, 140 degrees in the rocks, and stuff's still living out there sitting under a bush or a piece of sage or whatever. While if it's over 90 degrees in South Florida, nothing is in sunlight. Nothing is anywhere. It's buried in a hole somewhere.
Well, they don't have a choice. I mean, so one of the interesting things that Clobber, just when he was back in the days before ethics, right? When they wanted, how long can a rattlesnake survive without a head? I don't know. Let's cut the head off of a few hundred of them and count. He was testing with upper terminal body temperatures, and surprisingly, like at Horridus in the Northeast, and a sidewinder that lives in sand that's 160 degrees, they die around the same temperature. So
really,
it's easier to modify. It's not your metabolic tolerances; it's your behavior. So they have a series of behaviors that allow them to live in that. And one of the problems that was about speckled rattlesnakes, I'll say that because that's the thing that a lot of people look for when they're herping. Herpers kill specks often because the thing that a lot of herpers don't understand is that in the summer here, they're out moving around within a few degrees of their death temperature, which is between 105 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So if it is 6 o'clock in the morning and you see a speck and it's crawling somewhere, what is really happening is it sat there until it's like a couple of degrees from death, hoping for a lizard, and then it makes a beeline for its hole. And if it gets held up in that, you might let it go and go on your way and have some good photos of that speck that you found. And then I come and find it later and it's dead. And it's one of the ones that we've been tracking. So they do live out here in the heat. They don't like it. They don't like it any more than anything else. But it can make them very predictable. And that estivation period is just like if you live in the Northeast and you want to go find timber rattlesnakes, you go find a den and there's a bunch of them there, and it's very predictable. There's high sight fidelity. That's the same here in the top part of the summer. It's 115 degrees outside. I can go see 20 speckled rattlesnakes and a couple of Gila monsters if I want to, with almost no variability. It's like easy, but you have to climb a mountain in the middle of the day, and it's lethal.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is amazing. And I know, like, just some of the stuff that we have by us, it's very, very much stuff will move at a particular time of the day in relation to that species' activity, if you will. Like we call it the cottonmouth hour, which is about 30-40 minutes before the actual ball of the sun goes below the horizon to about 20 minutes after it.
Okay.
I've never found a cottonmouth any other time of day except for that.
Really? And
maybe at like 8 in the morning when it was coming from land into water, right when the earth starts to warm up, so to speak. And like I don't even try to look for cottonmouths unless it's going to be that cottonmouth hour. While as excuse me, certain species of corn snakes, rat snakes, and Nerodia, anytime after 9 p.m., it's fair game. You're just gonna see them then. You won't find them anytime during sunlight. So it's super cool to know that. I don't know if ours are doing the same concept on maybe just a lighter level, maybe, but that's super fascinating. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, not sure if I understand this correctly. Yours do not have. It's for the same reason that the hibernation period is different, is that you just don't have those deep recesses. You don't have without the rock, you don't have a cave. And large granite systems, it's like there's conductive temperature. Like it's like when you touch the handle of a frying pan, right? If you find a big thing of granite that's the size of a mountain and it's just the top outcrop that's sticking out, if an animal can get into those crevices, the temperature doesn't change at all in there. There's not enough sun that could possibly hit it to change the core temperature of that rock meaningfully. Yeah. So without that, which you don't have, they have to hide. They have to just find foliage, and that's, I guess, where stump holes are an approximation of that kind of thing. Where there's some kind of dynamic that can get in there and do that. But I just get so lost in it. I mean, I don't know. I've probably spent a month and a half in Florida in the last couple of years here, and it's all road cruising and mosquitoes and fun stuff.
Oh yeah. Where about in Florida did you go?
The whole thing. So I've done some time in the Everglades and a lot of time in the Panhandle, and then just kind of in between here and there. Certainly a lot more that I want to do over there. But I think the last time I was there, I spent a good amount of time in the Panhandle because I wanted to see more Florida cane breaks and just kind of try to find all the venomous stuff that's in the state in one trip. Just a little weird.
Did you do it?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a dream of mine. I've never actually done that.
Yeah, it's a lot of gas.
I can imagine.
And weird and something like called boiled peanuts, I guess.
Oh yeah, I don't look. I'm a Florida boy through and through, but that whole boiled peanuts thing, I just can't get behind it, man. That's what that is? That's Georgia people coming south. That's what that is.
Infecting you. Yeah. It's neat. I like it. There's a lot of places I need to go in the state, but Florida's just fun.
Yeah, it's Florida.
Yeah. I love road cruising too. And I don't do it as much here as I used to just because it's more productive for me to hike. But there are those days when it's midnight, it's still 103 degrees, and I'm finishing off my second gallon of water on the hike that I had to carry, and I'm like, I should just go road cruising. And
yeah, right. There's air conditioning. Yeah, no, I get the feeling, man. I get the feeling. And I will ask this, you guys, you're very seasonal, obviously. It gets way colder by you than it does by me in winter. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, so are the animals in hibernation for the most part, or is it just they're maximizing the amount of heat they can have or that they get on a daily basis, and that's why you're seeing less and less of them in winter? Or I mean, what's your observations being the guy catching them?
Well, temperature is certainly a factor, but humidity is the driver. And this is a thing that I think a lot of herpers miss in Arizona that causes them to not find as much as they could, is that you here, even in the winter, so it doesn't rain here in the winter either, right? So in the summer, they can move around. It's warm enough that they have the metabolism to move and find water and hunt and do things. In the winter, they can't. If they are where they are with the water that they have, if it's getting, if it's 45 degrees in the daytime, they can't go crawl somewhere and go get a drink. They can if
right.
So, yeah, it's a lot about limiting that. So there are a lot of days that the temperature is just perfect. It might be February and it's 75 degrees and kind of cloudy, and it just feels like stuff we move and nothing is out. And the reason for that is it's like they don't trust it. They have the water they have. Every breath is losing a little bit of it. So they need to keep it. It does mean that there are some really great times in the winter. And I tried to talk to some herpers one of the best days that we had this last year was on December 10th of 2020. And what happened that day is it rained, which doesn't sound like all that exciting to you, but we had not had a drop of rain in most of the state since the previous April. There were some little things that came through, and you get this nice thing called verja, which is a cloud comes and you see the rain coming, but it all evaporates before it hits the ground. So that's what happened. Mass collapse of ecosystems, and some places got rain, a lot didn't. So you had this
crazy.
It was 40 degrees outside, and it rained, and the few of us that were in the know were like, "We got to go drop what you're doing and go," because literally every single rattlesnake in the desert came out, and for an hour or two was all on the surface rain. So a few of us were just texting each other all day, like, what are you up to? I'm on 25. What are you up to? We're all in different places doing it. And
that's awesome.
We couldn't convince people to go out. Like I was on Facebook, like on the herping group in Arizona, like, get your ass outside right now. Like go herping. I know it's cold. Go. And it just takes temperature is certainly a driver for reptiles, but there are many factors involved in it. And in Arizona, water is everything. That's the reason anything does anything out here.
That's super cool, man. That's amazing. I never even considered that. And the NPR boys are always talking about being student of the serpent, and all of us that keep stuff in captivity, all of us that do field herping, we're constantly learning stuff about the animals that we love so much. But that's one thing that never occurred to me. And I wonder if that is a pressing thing down by me too, because we always say, oh, it's 100% humidity every day. But there's a lot of times in winter when it's 80, 84 degrees, but there's very little humidity. It may only be 50, 40% humidity. And I'm wondering if that's why I'm not seeing the rat snakes that I would expect to see, or I'm not seeing maybe the pygmy rattlers that I'm expecting to see. So that's actually super fascinating to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I mean, humidity has other things that have to do with temperature too. The amount of humidity in the air can slow, or it can change the gamut of variation and how fast that happens. So my friend calls certain days where there's a lot of sun and it feels perfect, but it happened too quickly. He calls it an English faucet day, because you might have a rock suitcase, like an English faucet. There's two knobs on it, and you get hot water or cold water. So you get situations where it seems perfect outside, but it happens so quickly that the underside of the rock is too cold and the top side is too hot. And that's what's happening out there. So humidity helps regulate things like that. It takes longer, heat in the air takes longer to be acquired or lost. So humidity, I mean, I don't know all the things about your environment where you have a lot of it and but I'm sure it has a major effect, because humidity and temperature, they go hand in hand in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm gonna look more in depth into that, because it may explain a few theories I have in my mind about certain species and certain times of the year. I also noticed in the past couple of years, I mean, I've been in Florida for 22 years now.
Mhm.
And when I was younger, it was the running joke of it's going to rain every single day from May through September between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m.
Mhm.
And now a lot of us, especially the herpers, were noticing that it's raining. It's the same amount of rain every day, but it's happening later in the day.
Really?
And we don't know if that's because of global warming and just things getting warmer and cloud shifts moving, or maybe it's because of urban expansion and buildings are kind of, redirecting airflow. I mean, who the hell knows? But it's very interesting to think about the amount of precipitation that's dropped at the time of the day in relation to the snakes coming out when we know them to come out.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're looking for different triggers too, and it might feel just perfect to you, but there's some little thing that you just don't know. I mean, that's the fun of this whole thing, right? Is that you can only
100%.
become more and more confused as you
right?
keep going. It's just
Yeah. Just when you thought you had it dialed in, you're like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
And I will say this too, is we used to always say right before a rainstorm and right after it, right? And now I've been, I have my girlfriend's getting into herping now, and she wants to go more and more. I'm like, it's drizzling 100 miles west. Let's go now. By the time we get there, it'll just be coming up. We'll get the drizzle. It'll go away. It'll be perfect. And nothing's out because it's either waiting for the rain to stop or we just missed it.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
Constantly trying to decipher that and get that dialed in, for lack of a better word. So
it could all be just meaningless theory.
Of course.
I'll realize this on my deathbed that it was all nothing. It was all just luck the whole time.
Right. I mean, well, we do know the Earth is flat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, that's one good thing that the hotline does give me, is that I have some bias control.
Oh, nice.
So if I go out and I'm herping and I don't see anything, I'll check the hotline, and if it's hopping, I know I sucked at herping that night, right? But if it's dead too, I knew it. They weren't moving, vindicated, But so it gives us a really good model of when things actually move and when people run into snakes, and it's kind of a neat little side, a project that it's kind of a dream of mine to produce, that I'm in the beginning stages of doing, is we have a tremendous amount of data now. We have 12,000 plus, actually closer to 14,000 now records of rattlesnakes being caught in different parts of the valley, and along with that are the locations and time, we can cross-reference that with weather underground. You can go and grab the temperature and pressure and all this stuff, and moon phase from their services and out there. So once you have all those data, you can build something like a predictive engine for herping, to where you could put in, okay, here's the temperature yesterday, here's like the 7-day average, here's the moon phase, here's a 7-day average of humidity, and it will tell you if snakes are moving or if they should move based on this. So that'd be really cool to have. It might start kind of seeming like cheating if it works, but I mean, that'd be awesome if you had something that says, stay home or not.
Well, I mean, look, man, the fish guys, they got fish finders. This is the least we could have, right? That's super cool, man. So all these animals that you're field herping on your own or with friends, and then the phone calls and the response that you get from the people of Arizona, what's the majority of the species you're encountering? I'm sure it has to do with seasonal stuff in terms of breeding cycles and temperature and all that, but is it mostly atrox, or is it just a hodgepodge of everything?
At homes, it's usually atrox. Atrox, they're incredibly numerous out here. They're large, detectable, and they're also generalists. For rattlesnakes, which are a specialized genus in particular, but they are pretty general. They can live and make do in a lot of different places.
They're the trash pandas of Arizona.
They are, yeah. So anytime rodents, they'll eat whatever they can. They'll live wherever they can. They'll live in your, in your garage just fine. Just because we came and built a neighborhood there does not mean that they're going to not live there. And it's like, oh, cool. You gave me some sprinklers now to hang out in, and some like rats. These are rats. I don't know what these are, but they're good. I'm going to eat them. So mostly
it rains every day at 4 a.m.
Yeah, every day at 4 a.m. Yeah. So for 5 minutes exactly. And then it stops.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, lots of diamondbacks and gopher snakes and king snakes, a lot of harmless ones too. That one's tricky because we don't want to catch those. But we also know that people will kill them. So there's kind of a fine line to walk there. The elephant in the room and all this stuff is that we make money from it. And we do run into people that think that is unethical just to do it in the beginning, especially on something that is like a gopher snake that can't hurt anybody. But we always try to talk people out of it if we can. If somebody calls and they're like, I don't know what this thing is, can you tell me? We're not going to be like, oh, we'll come catch it and charge you and then tell you what it is. We'll ask if we suspect if they say it's a rattlesnake, we don't question them, because if it's not, you can be destructive in that case.
Yeah.
If you're wrong, you can be dangerous.
Yeah.
So if someone calls and says, hey, we have a rattlesnake here, we trust them. We go and figure it out later. We don't mess around with, hey, can you get close to it and take a picture to prove what you're saying? But if they say, I don't know what this is, it's black and white banded snake, it's crawling around slowly, what is it? We'll tell them it's a king snake and they don't need us out there. And if they insist, we know what that means. It means that if we don't go, they're either going to call someone else that's going to come and get it and not do as good of a job as we do at finding a good spot for it to go, or they can kill it. Very rarely will they just let it, do its thing. And we succeed about half the time. But while we're there, we catch the snake and then we can talk to them. We have FaceTime with all these people. And that's really valuable to me as somebody that spends a lot of time educating people about snakes is the bulk of the people that need to hear about snakes miss the bulk of information about them, educational stuff, because it takes place in nature centers. It takes place in, you have to seek it out. And if you give any presentations ever, like the type of questions you get at a nature center and the types of questions you get like at a church or an HOA meeting on a Tuesday night with people that are terrified of, they're way different questions. And, there's lots of people that do the nature center thing and probably do it a lot better than I do. But I get a lot of, if somebody is talking to me and they saw a gopher snake 3 days ago and they can't stop crying literally about it. I have experience in talking to that person about how they feel okay about it. And it doesn't have anything to do with snakes. That's the interesting thing. There's a lot of the people that are really scared of snakes or kill them when they see them. The more I'm doing this, the less I'm actually talking about snakes and talking about the way our brains work and the way that fear works and
the human element.
Yeah, because that's what it is. It's culture. I always thought that there's a cultural element to it. But we just published a paper with in partnership with ASU about how attitudes of wildlife, how they feel about snakes. One of the really interesting takeaways from that is that people who lived in the country or lived in a place that snakes are at all the time, and maybe their dog was killed by a rattlesnake or something, and they've had experiences with them. And then you have people that live in the city that have never seen a wild snake at all. Their feelings about snakes were unimpacted by which of those situations they are, which means it's purely culture. It's purely something that is driven by an expectation you have that you use those experiences to flesh out, to confirm or deny. So makes it a lot easier when you look at it that way,
Very interesting. Did you feel that the people that came from a more rural environment where snakes were more common than the city slicker, was the attitude towards them worse from the city person? Or do you understand what I'm saying?
It wasn't. They're the same, but they're
the same.
Yeah. So it doesn't. So they might hate them and talk about it, but the reason why they hate them or talk about it isn't driven by the fact that they have experienced them. The thing that seems to be the driving factor there is that. So we've all probably posted a photograph of a snake on Instagram or something, and then that random person chimes in, "Yuck, I hate snakes." Right?
Yeah.
They are not saying anything about snakes. They are telling you something about them. It is important for them the way that they see themselves, that I reject snakes. I don't like snakes. It's important to me. I do this. I'm a country person. I kill all snakes I see, and I fix my own car, and I take care of myself, and I protect my dogs. There's this whole persona, this thing that they believe that culturally they're rewarded by this little tidbit of information that they hate snakes. In city, people do the same thing, and it can go the other way too. You can have a country person that loves all animals and loves snakes, and they will also, it's just virtue signaling type stuff. So
Sure.
Somebody does that. Somebody grew up on a farm and kills every snake they see. What fact are you going to tell them about snakes that's going to change their mind? There's nothing. Yeah. But you can talk to them about who they are, and you can leave them with the feeling that they have a better social benefit, a better virtue signal to appreciate snakes than to not kill them. And they will flip on a dime. They will abandon that opinion immediately. If that
very interesting.
Yeah. So it's just marketing is all that is,
Wow.
Seems complicated.
That's awesome.
It's just classic marketing.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to call it just marketing. I think you're legitimately helping both people and animals. You know what I mean? Like it's not. Yeah.
I'm hoping that I can convince other people that work with snakes to kind of see it this way. Because I think we all want to say, well, the snake is an important part of the ecosystem. You shouldn't kill it because they eat rodents, and rodents are bad and they control rodents. The people that kill snakes don't care about those things. So the thing, like, we all do the same thing. So like when we're saying snakes are an important part of the ecosystem, we're in turn just telling the world who we are, and we're also
right.
So you got to get out of that loop and like, okay, this is gonna suck. I have to not be mad at this guy that just killed the snake because my intent is to manipulate this person into not doing this again. And I don't care if he knows even why he does it. I just don't want him to kill it.
Yeah.
So we all have a lot that's what I'd like to hopefully get out of this in the end, is to start, maybe snowballing some of this. There's a lot of people that do a lot of really good education work, but I think that's the missing component, is how to get through to those people that we write off. It's not about snakes. It's about you gotta talk to who they want to be, just like all of us.
Right. Yeah, we've always said there's two types of people that kill snakes. Mm-hmm. People that are legitimately thinking they're doing everyone a service. I killed this snake and now I've saved all these humans and these humans' dogs and the neighborhood children. I did a good thing. Mm-hmm. And then there are people that honestly just don't know any better. They're like, oh, that's what you do. You kill snakes. You chop their heads off.
Never questioned it. Yeah.
And one thing that if someone tells me, hey man, what is this snake? I'm sorry, I killed it. Right there, it shows me that they were trying to do good, but they didn't have the time in their mind. They didn't have the time to really find out if they should have killed that snake or not. They were just, do it, get it over with. If it was harmless, oops, oh well, now I know for next time. But there's the people that get angry with the person that killed it. And instead of saying, hey, that was a California king snake, it was harmless, but, now for next time, they get mad at them and they retaliate with something like, hey, can I send you a picture of a puppy with its head cut off?
Yeah, it's not.
And it's like, that's not the way we should go about it.
See, that's the trick of it, is that you have to be able to recognize their motivations. So there are, and people that kill them, there are malicious people that just go out and kill them just to kill it. And for those people, if you are looking at it purely from social motivation, right? If they kill something and they post it and they're looking for praise because of it, there is a place for anger. There is a place for, and if people do that, like on our Facebook page, which happens sometimes, like if somebody goes on our page and does the old, only good snake is a dead snake thing, I watch it closely, and I let the people that are on the page chew them up a little bit before I delete it. And the reason for that is just so that they can experience the denial of the praise that they were hoping for.
Sure.
If it's a troll, it's not going to work. If it's somebody that honestly believes that, it's not going to work. But if it's somebody that just belligerently kills things or whatever, so if you can recognize, again, going back to marketing, you got to recognize the pornographic. Is this a person that is fed on or fed by that type of attention, and they're looking for good attention, but instead they get bad attention. They at the very least won't post there again, or if they do, become a troll, but you still win because that's a person that's given up.
Yeah. Well put, man. Very well put. It's interesting to because we're all herpers and we tend to associate with other herpers, and we share photos with one another, and we share articles with one another and research papers and all that. And then, in my line of work, I work retail. Most of the people that I interact with are like, so what are you doing this weekend? And I'm not going to say, oh, I'm going to go herping, because they have no idea what that is. Yeah. I'm going to say something like, oh, I'm going to go out in the glades and, do some photography and, try and catch a sunset with my girl. And they can grasp that. And then depending on how curious they are, or nosy, whatever we want to consider it, they may say, oh, so do you just take photography of clouds, or, what are you into? And I'll say, well, actually, I like reptiles. I like snakes. And then I'll either get the, wow, that's really cool, we have snakes in Florida, or I'll get the, oh man, you're crazy. You're crazy. And then it goes back to what you were talking about that virtuing, and like, I never saw it like that. And now I'm going to have to really dive into the psyche of each one of those guys, because it happens more frequently than not. So that's a great way of looking at it.
It's so advertising and marketing is the most well-funded scientific study that's ever happened. Right. It is science. It's when you make an advertisement and you try different versions of it, and then you measure the results and all that. You can learn a lot about how to do some of these things from ads. So look at car commercials, right? They are a great example of car commercials. Some of them are, they're selling you on the features of the car, but most of them they're lifestyle type ads. Where they're trying to capture who we think this person wants to be seen this way, and we'll do that. Right. They don't really talk very much about the car at all. There's things all around us that can kind of give us training on how to identify types of people, and about that. It's specialty thing. I certainly don't expect everybody on that argues on Facebook and stuff about snakes to get deep on this stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I enjoy it because that's what I used to do before I was doing the snake thing. So,
I think it's great.
Yeah.
We've been talking for a short amount of time, and I've learned so much. This is phenomenal. I'm loving this. Yeah, man. And I'm trying to relate it the best I can to my demographic of locals, my culture that we have, because we don't necessarily have the roundups and stuff like that. But at the same time, most of the urban inhabitants by me are either from the Caribbean and South America, and they have their own opinion of what snakes are and should be, or they're from the Northeast, where they're all megalopolis people, and they've never even seen a snake in the wild. So they just have this, misconceived notion that, they're going to spring up out of the toilet and, kill them.
So, and they don't care. And those are tricky because it's kind of, it's almost easier to work with the people that are from there, because you can invoke pride in where you're from. And I've done that here a couple of times, where you just ignore what they're saying, and it's like, oh, you're so lucky you live in that place. You have black-tailed rattlesnakes there. That's amazing. I would love to see those things. And you get into that conversation that they can be proud of where they're from, but someone that's just a brand new transplant they feel that way about spiders and birds and whatever else too. That's a challenging one for sure. And you get
it's funny you mention
more new people than I do out here.
I can imagine. Yeah, we're constantly growing in South Florida. That's for sure. Constantly expanding. And one thing that I always notice is the I can't remember. I think it's the Mockingbirds. We have Mockingbirds by us, and at 3:00 in the morning, they're singing, and people, they get all in a tizzy, and they're like, "Oh man, this stupid black and blue bird out my window! I'm just gonna shoot it." And I tell them, you can't do that. It's federally protected, and this and that. And I was like, man, this is quintessential Florida. Like you should be, blessed that you have this bird in your yard. So many people in Florida are dying to see this bird, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And all of a sudden, before you know it, the next time I see them, they're like, hey man, remember that bird I was going to shoot? Check this out. Look at the nest it made. And it snowballs. So I've seen what you're talking about.
For it. They get something for it. It's nothing to do with the bird. They get something out of it. Oh, and you guys, maybe alligators are an approximation. You can probably, there's probably some, anything you can put on a T-shirt for tourists is something that somebody can be proud of.
Yeah, that's true. I will say this though, since alligators were taken off the endangered species list, there's people that are fearful of alligators because they think they're big scary dinosaurs, which is the most common thing, right? Then you have alligator hunters who are legitimate sportsmen and conservationists, and they go through the state lotteries and they hunt the areas that they're designated to, and they only take gators of a certain size and a certain age, and they most of the time they're just getting the meat that they want, and then they donate it to Fish and Wildlife so that they can do all their survey and research on the carcasses and stuff. And then there's people that they just don't care. They're just indifferent, like, oh, it's an alligator, whatever. So it's a very eclectic group of individuals.
It is. I don't know. It's going to be different everywhere you go, and it's never going to go away. But it's not a new problem either. It's just something I don't know. I am fortunate that I get so much FaceTime with people that are not our types. So I get a lot of learning to do, and on the hotline too. It's an interesting thing. It's kind of related, but just like every snake call we go on is different. The people's attitudes are different every time too. And you learn a lot about just dealing with, people call us and they're crying, or they're freaking out, or they are mad at us for some reason because they're angry. They're in the situation to begin with, and we're associated with snakes, so they're mad at us too. So like there's this whole thing. I learned so much more about people than snakes, just from beginning to end in the process. And when you get to the property, how they act, men are funny on this thing, and I'm not. It's a funny thing. So snakes and the way guys act when there's a perceived threat, right? Right. So I drive a Prius for this job because I drive around town all day. I want 55 miles a gallon with good AC. That's what I want to do. I'm not dumb. I'm gonna go for the good gas mileage.
Sure. Of course.
A lot of rattlesnakes in the back of a Prius too. But
I can imagine.
when I roll up to some guy's house, and I'm 6'3", and when he sees me unfold out of the Prius, he gets all upset. And it's just funny because they're I thought you were going to come in like this big giant truck, and because they're operating on a mentality of what defeating this threat is like, that like I'm going to show up and like start doing karate or something.
Yes, you're going to put your headband on, tie it real tight, warm your hands,
hold my whiskey. I'm just gonna like punch this snake in the face for a while.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it just bothers the hell out of them that I drive that Prius. And it's one of the joys that I have, because then they follow me around the property, like making excuses. Well, I would have just done it myself, but my wife wouldn't let me. And
that's the famous one. I love that one.
You hired me, just let me do it. It's all good. I'm not looking down on you, but it's so regular how that happens.
Yeah. Do you ever get guys asking to like throw them a bone, like, hey man, can you tell my wife that like I helped?
Actually, sometimes. Well, they'll just jump in and help anyway. And
okay, all right.
Because they'll like get digging in the bushes and stuff, and they don't know what they're doing, or they'll want to like hold the flashlight or like carry the bucket around. Occasionally, I let them carry the bucket.
Sure.
Bucket, just so like they can. You did good. You helped.
Yeah, good boy.
Good boy. You did. You can go tell your wife you helped.
Nice. But that's cool, man. Have you ever had, I'll just say, people as a whole do try and catch it on their own and either help out legitimately or make things horribly worse?
So a problem that we have is that this happens often enough. Somebody will catch the snake themselves and put it in a bucket, and then they'll leave it in the sun all day and then call us later to come and get it from work. And like, well, it's dead. Thanks for helping.
Yeah.
That baked it. Yeah, that happens a lot. That is the dreaded thing that happens as we get, or the neighbor, the helpful neighbor is our enemy. So where we get a call, we have 25 minutes to get there. And that's basically a clock before the helpful neighbor with a hockey stick finds out that something's happening
Right.
on the street. Because
Of
they'll come
course.
over, and if they usually, sometimes they'll just come over and kill it or something, but often enough, they just come over and make the situation way worse. Like the snake
Yeah.
is sitting in the corner sleeping and it's all good, but they came over it and poked at it with their hockey stick to try to get it into a duffel bag, and now it's like under a tree in a hole in the ground, and we have to get it out of there. So, yeah. The best situation is just for nobody helping.
Yeah.
We get people who have let their dogs out to help us for some reason. I don't understand how that works, but it happens. Maybe 5 to 10 times a year. I go out and they send their dogs out with me to go and I don't know what they're expecting is going to happen.
Is it like a find the scent thing, or is it like a Lassie thing?
I don't know. I don't know what they're expecting.
Timmy's in the well.
I don't know what they're expecting is going to happen, but it's not good to have your dogs running around when I'm catching a snake. So I have to stop everything at that point and ask them to, I like your dog, but he will die if he comes to try to help.
Yeah.
Not good. I don't know. I see a lot of weird people.
That's crazy. One time I was working at a pet shop, and they used to get phone calls all the time. There's a rattlesnake in my yard, and 99% of the time it's a Nerodia rattling its tail in the dead ficus bush leaves. But one time the guy held the phone next to the rattlesnake, and you heard it do his thing, and I was like, all right, man, I'll be right over. I'm like, it's an actual rattlesnake? This is no way. And I get there, and it was a construction site, and it was about a 2-foot Eastern Diamondback, and he has it in like this big 50-gallon concrete mixing tub. And I was like, how the hell did it get in there? He goes, well, I picked it up with 2x4s like chopsticks. And I was like, I told you I was like 10 minutes away, man. You could have just left him alone. He's like, man, no, he's going to kill my workers. It's like, okay, all right. So I bagged it up and
run around and start killing workers at any time.
Yeah, just breathing fire, flying around with its bat wings.
We get that with the Gila monsters because people don't know anything about Gila. They don't know what to expect with them. And also here we have chuckwallas too. So people don't know the difference between the two. So they'll see a chuckwalla and it runs across the road and jumps into the rocks, and they go, oh, Gila monsters are way faster than people say. So they'll think. So they'll see a Gila monster in the backyard, and they have to act, even though it's it's the slowest lizard there is. You can't.
Guinness Book of World Records, slowest lizard.
Yeah, you can't not catch a Gila monster, but they will find a way to ruin that and make it so that it's like it's crawled into a concrete pipe or something just from poking it with a stick. To keep it in place or whatever. I have no idea. But it's we have to be very direct with people. Like stay where you're at, stare, I tell them to have a staring contest with the snake because it's
smart.
It says, don't go inside and get a drink, don't play with it, don't do anything. You wouldn't think you'd have to tell people this much, but it's us, it's people. So
sure. So how many Gilas do you get a year or a season?
Maybe 20 or so.
Okay.
That's another one we try to talk people out of when we can. If there's a Gila monster there, they're venomous, but they're not dangerous.
Right.
So unless there's something like, if it's for the Gila's protection, sometimes we'll go and do that. If they call and say, my dogs they're in and out, and it's going to hurt them, and then a Gila monster can actually bite a dog or something.
Sure.
Or if someone just wants to move, we don't take them any distance. We basically just move them to the nearest available microhabitat that they can survive in.
Sure.
But I always like catching Gila monsters. That's always a fun one. Just kind of a treat.
Yeah,
for a whole crew is like that. If there's a Gila monster that comes up, everyone's like, I don't even need to get paid. Just let me go. I want to go see the little guy.
Yeah. I keep Gilas, man, and
oh yeah.
I would love to see one in the wild.
It's fun.
And I don't need to. What's that?
I finally figured out how to target them this year, more than just kind of like finding them occasionally.
Nice, excellent.
So I've seen over 50 of them this year. So this is my best
Wow.
year. And a lot of that was
Very
in February and March. They're communal denners. That's a very little known, poorly documented fact, is that they actually den in groups, often with atrox and molossus. So as soon as I figured that out, I got easy.
Nice. That's very cool. Very, very cool, man. Yeah, and the Gila interactions with humans. Now, I know it's mostly suburbia and in garages and backyards and pools and stuff like that, but is it, how do I phrase this? Is it because they're on the move for one reason or another, whether it be breeding season or whatnot, or is it just we've invaded the landscape and they're just still trying to make a living?
Kind of the latter. So Gila,
Okay.
their ranges they have really high site fidelity. They hang out in, they establish a home range and they stick to it, and they stick to it in different times of the year. So a lot of the homes around, you probably saw Scottsdale or something, or in Cave Creek where I live when you were visiting.
Sure.
Rachel. A lot of those homes are built around these big, large boulder mountains. And those are places where Gilas are really frequently found. They live up in the boulders in the winter, and then they come down and hunt the bajadas during the spring, and then they go and estivate. In the spring, basically there's situations where the Gilas, they go up for the winter and they come down the next spring, and there's now a neighborhood there that wasn't there before. So displacement is a big thing. And the unfortunate thing is that it's not just because it's a new neighborhood. It's because so few of them actually survive that first year that we don't, the majority of the Gila calls that we get are new neighborhoods, because it kills them off. And it kills them off pretty typically, not just like the ones that are right from the house, but like the ones in the area, because they have such a, they get hit by cars very easily. They are not great at new tricks. So if they know there's a hole where they can go escape the heat for the day, and they can't get to it, they'll bake. They get hit by cars a lot. So
that sucks.
On a happier note, my wife looked at her trail cam like 10 minutes before I jumped on this call with you today, and we found a Gila monster living in our backyard, apparently.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm pretty happy about that, and have not seen
that's super cool.
Yeah.
You guys got to do a constant live feed, like webcam in the hole of the burrow, and just, do like a Patreon thing, man. And give him a name.
I got to figure out which hole he's in. He just walked across the thing. We just moved in here in December, so I'm getting to know which reptiles live here and where they're at. But we have living here, like as long-term residents, we have 5 atrox, 2 tiger rattlesnakes, 1 speckled, and now a Gila monster. So we'll see who shows up next year. But I would love
very cool
on it.
Are you too? Is your area too low on the map, so to speak, for zebras?
We're close. I can go cruise them near my house. I can climb them over the mountain behind my house and find them up there. I haven't yet, but it's the right habitat. So I know that at some point they're going to want to come down the hill to the spring that's around here. I just haven't seen them. There are lots of places where you can get Serbs with saguaro. They're high elevation forest animals for the most part, but they're
so it's not just pine trees. They branch out.
Yeah. So the places that I looking for them are in kind of grasslands with pinyon and manzanita and that kind of thing, and that's a lot closer to where I'm at.
Are the ones that are in that manzanita scrubland type stuff, are they a lighter color, or do they still? Is that have anything to do with temperature throughout the year? Or?
It can't. Well, the ones that I find in that environment, they're just kind of gray. They're gray on black. They have a really reduction of the white banding on the stick, and they lose it pretty quickly. So there's some that look cool. Some of them just look ugly, when they're like that. But there are some of the really cool ones where they're like gunmetal gray, and the entire thing is that color. So it looks like somebody made them out of pewter and forgot to paint them. So they're really cool. And I like those ones too, because they're also nocturnal. So Serbs are often very diurnal animals. The ones that live in the lower, hotter desert areas are mostly nocturnal. So it's a little pocket population that exists outside of what, there's bias in natural history of a lot of animals where, the majority of what we know about an animal might come from one location because that's the one that the university has been studying.
Yeah, that phenotype, that holotype.
So these hot desert nocturnal cerbs are, they've escaped the radar on that. So I like them, and they're close to my house now too. I can be in there
Super cool.
half hour from my door. So
cool. Then the tigers you got, are they your typical sandy color, or do you get any like the blue stuff? Or
not too blue here. Here they're kind of just a sandy color, but in my study site in the Phoenix Mountains, they're kind of that gunmetal blue. And I found an orange one the other night too. So I love.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're such. They're really numerous, and a lot of people don't know how. You have this idea that tiger rattlesnakes are kind of rarer or more rarely seen, but if we get on them, they're the most common snake that's going to be out there, and
really
easy to find too. Yeah, they don't. I think that they are hard to find typically because you associate them with rocks. They're not really rock specialists. They like lower bajadas and in dirt caves, caliche, and that kind of thing. So I think that comes from people finding them as bycatch when they're looking for specks. So you see them. You see 5 specks and 1 tiger, so you think other specks are 5 times as common as tigers. That's not. That tigers live in a different place and do different things, even though there's overlap.
Yeah.
So
they just happen to find it. Right. They just happen to find it with the specks in that area.
Yeah.
Have you ever had anybody give you a call and get something crazy like a Willard eye or anything?
Not in Phoenix. I mean, I guess when I was doing. I got a banded rock rattlesnake last year from somebody's house that was down in that area.
Yeah, because you're a little too far north for them anyway.
Yeah, we don't get anything like that. I think the craziest things we get are the, I guess, just the escaped exotics that happen. We don't have anything here like what you guys have. We don't have. Well, first, things aren't going to survive. Somebody could let a cobra out all at once. It's going to. It's 120 degrees. Everything's going to die. I mean, it's not that cobras can't survive in that, but
right.
Specialized, right? It's not like Miami where it's like, come on in. We're a giant terrarium.
Yeah.
You escape, you'll be fine. We get like calls inside homes for escape retics and stuff like that, and just all the little weird stories that come from that type of thing. For the most part, the calls are pretty, they're fun, but it's almost all native stuff. It's almost all stuff that's decently predictable. And if something does seem exciting, for the most part, it means that things are going wrong. It doesn't mean, that's why we usually, each year I get pitched for a TV show, maybe 3 or 4 times. And it's always it's never going to happen because of what they want us to do is not anything we're interested in doing. Like if it's exciting, then something has gone terribly wrong. It's not. Yeah, it's supposed to be exciting. It's supposed to be this.
And I'm sure as much as the money would be enticing, the way that they want to perceive what you're doing and what we do is not how we want to be viewed per se.
Yes, it's not. Yeah. So an example would be, you remember that show, Venom Hunters?
Mm-hmm.
Came out. They called us about that, and the call we had with them was, well, we don't do that. I mean, the premise of the show is that people go out in the field and they squirt venom into Mountain Dew bottles and sell it to somebody for millions of dollars or something. And like we don't do that, and nobody does that. So if you keep asking around, you're going to get some people that say yes, but the nature of it is that, well, they're lying to you. They don't actually do that. So you're going to have a show where people, it's either full of liars and you'll be upset when you actually show up to film and they're not doing that. Or you have a terribly contrived show with a concept that isn't valid. And those are the types of things that keep happening, is that we have an initial call with the producers and their premise for the show is not, it's not even that it's bad. It's it's nonsensical. It's not like a real thing you could do. And I always think it's unfortunate because the work that is actually being done, it could be interesting if it's done Like I have a TikTok page, and I know I'm 42. I'm not exactly the TikTok desired audience, but
Right.
I do a lot of education work on there.
You're never too old to TikTok.
Yeah, I'm not going to start dancing on this thing right now, but I found that like there is a voice for just like measured educational stuff about snakes, and that's,
Sure.
it just takes a while to find it, and we've hit it. We have like a good I don't know. We have like 1.5 million followers on there, so we have found a thing that resonates.
Sure.
And I have not had to do anything stupid in the process.
Nice. And Bill Bradley from Cold Black Exotics says, "What if you change the order? Safely catch the snake, crush a beer, chest bump, cruise away in the Prius."
I think I've done that before.
I love it. I knew you were fit for this show.
I think that's what it'll be. You can do it once a day.
Yeah, right.
That'd be fine.
That's great, man. That's great. Oh, so behind you is an amazing display of what I believe to be your collection.
Yeah, we have it wraps around. So we keep all the species of rattlesnake that are here in Arizona. We have licenses for the protected ones as well. So we have all of those. And we do a lot of education work with these guys. So if I'm going to go speak to a community in Scottsdale, for instance, I will grab the species that live in that neighborhood and put them in a box with me and bring them.
Very cool.
We also do some breeding that we do for. So I just got a pair of twin spotted rattlesnakes.
Nice, congratulations.
Yeah, I'm happy about it. It's hard to. The only ones that exist right now in universities and in Arizona are ones that came from poachers, and they're all these old males that when they die they just have to. It's unfortunate that the entirety of the educational animals that all these places have it's all like built on poaching. So if the law enforcement does their job, or the laws are made to where they do their job right, then ASU doesn't have a twin spotted rattlesnake anymore, that kind of thing. So I got a permit to go and collect 2 wild ones under really specific circumstance so that it wasn't impacting anything negatively, so that I can breed those and give them to universities and zoos. And same thing with ridge-nosed and all kinds of stuff. So it's fun. It's like my dream snake building, and it's my office and my, place to smash beer cans on my chest and
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's super cool, man. Super cool. Yeah, I know our good friend Brent Schultz, he had the ability to go and do what you said. He wound up getting some price signs and Willard-Eye from different localities for a couple of educational facilities, and obviously he didn't get to keep them. But I'm always envious of you guys that get to go up in those high alpine and find those crazy pine needle rattlers. It's awesome. It's awesome.
It's fun. And I put my group of friends that went with me to the they don't get off easy. I chose locations for the permit intentionally that were very difficult to get to. Just the impact. There's not going to be any, like, I look on the whole mountain, like which place will no herper ever go if they're sane? All right, we'll go there. So nice. So it's fun, and
that's awesome.
Pulling in right now, getting only one of them is eaten, and some of these are kind of picky, and wild animals can be tricky. You got to watch them closely, just because that's they all have parasites,
right,
and that's not even necessarily bad, but they can have like a recursive thing if they're just you have to really get on keeping it clean and all that.
Stress weakens immunity gets weakened even more from parasites, and therefore parasite load gets off balance and things start to crash. And I get it, man.
Yeah, so it's all touch and go, but it's easier than when I collected a couple of years ago two neonate Willard-Eye, which are like the size of a caterpillar that like just don't dry up,
Yeah, right.
So and they're adults now. Actually, my female is gravid right now. So
very cool, man. Very cool.
It's kind of a dream situation. I don't know. This year we live on some property now. We have wild rattlesnakes all over the place. I keep rattlesnakes. I work with rattlesnakes. I do research with rattlesnakes, and then in our free time, we go and look for rattlesnakes. So I might try another hobby. It feels weird.
Nah, don't do it.
I don't know. I can do this a while longer, I think.
I was gonna say, man, you're so good at it. Don't stick with it. That's awesome, man. So cool. Do you keep anything that's not Arizona native rattlesnakes?
I have some other rattlesnakes that just kind of came my way. I have a Panamint. I have a copperhead. This is the thing. Oh, I have a big basiliscus that's getting larger. It's
Nice.
Somebody dropped it off. They said that it was it's a Mexican West Coast rattlesnake. It's a large rattlesnake, and somebody called our hotline when I was out of town and said, "Hey, I got a blacktail, baby blacktail. I don't want it anymore. Can I give it to you guys?" Like, yeah. So he dropped it off, left it with my wife in a bucket, and I opened it up. Like, this is not a blacktail. I mean, it has a blacktail.
Yeah.
It's a baby basiliscus, and as a baby, it was 2.5 feet long. So it's like 4 now, and it's
Nice.
pushing 5 feet, and it's gonna put on another 1.5 feet or so.
Excellent.
And,
it's like a grapefruit in the middle.
Yeah, it sucks. I don't. If I ever have a snake, I might just get rid of because it doesn't really fit our program too. It's just kind of a cool
Sure.
thing to have, but every time I have to get into his enclosure, it seems a lot less cool to have because
he's just a Goliath.
Yeah, he's huge, and he just comes at you, and he's like trying to hook him is like trying to hook a pineapple. He's just got those like big beady fish scales, and just he just does whatever he wants, and
right.
I still like him. It's cool, but
it's almost better if you just got like a snow shovel, just scoop him up with a snow shovel. Yeah, man.
Let him live in there. That's fine.
Well, let me ask you this: is he at least like a pretty looking Duris's, or is it like
beautiful.
something? Okay, good. At least he's pretty.
It's a beautiful snake. I'm just scared of him. So I'm just scared of any animals. I have like these little beautiful specks that are just these little things and stuff, and then I have some large ones. I have a melanistic Atrox that somebody. So that's the downside of this too for me is that I get to. My view of the hobby is not always good, and that's just because, and I understand that I have a skewed perspective of it. And just because I'm in Arizona anyway, I'm on that team of people that has to clean up the mess. So if somebody gets every time I'm at a reptile show and you see that thing where you get like 2 people walking out and they don't have any enclosure and they have their very first snakes they've ever owned in their life, and they're both baby retics, and well, those things I'll might as well just give them to me now instead of feeding them with rats for a while and then picking them up in a park later or dead. There's a lot of that, and it's kind of a lot of poaching, a lot of very bad husbandry and released. We actually put ball pythons on our snake identification page because when I actually evaluated the numbers of which species we get called to remove on, ball pythons are in the top 15 snakes that we get. They're up there. They're more than like a patch nose snake, which is a really common native snake here. We catch more ball pythons than we do patch nose snakes. So we catch more ball pythons than black-headed snakes.
Well, let me ask you: is that because there's that many ball pythons loose, or is it because by the time you've arrived, the patch nose is long gone because it's way more high speed than a ball python?
It's just because of there's a lot of ball pythons. They're common pets, and that's all new. So it's not like we have an established population of ball pythons. We go out and catch a beef jerky like barely alive ball python that someone let go in a park, or that that they didn't secure something right. And the same thing for Burmese pythons. We catch them. It's not like the problem you guys have because they can't live here. They crawl out and then die. Right. So it's very hard for things to establish themselves here, but it also means that we see a lot of the really, really bad husbandry that happens where you go and, somebody and a landlord will call us and say, hey, somebody just moved out and they left like some kind of snake in a box here. and you go and you pick up a ball python that is just, skin and bones, living in its substrate is its own poop, and it's never been taken care of. And so that's my problem with it and that's why I'm saying I have a very view. I know that's not what the hobby is, but that's unfortunately my interface with it is through just the worst of the worst of keepers out there.
Sucks, man.
Yeah, it does.
It sucks. I'm sorry you got to deal with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, because it's I guess it's a small price to pay for, all the really fun stuff that we get to do. You tell me when I was a kid that I would get, somebody's like, help, we have a beautiful blue speckled rattlesnake in our backyard. Can you please come and get it? And we'll also give you some cash if you do.
Right.
I will do that for you. And then,
no problem. You know what? This time I'll make an exception. This time.
Yeah. Okay. Just this one time. Oh, you got a tiger.
Just this once.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, melanistic atrox. You know what? All right, fine. I'll show up.
Yeah. And that's where he came from. Was somebody had some rattlesnakes and some illegal ones, and the way they got rid of them is they just put them all in their Tupperwares and just dumped them out in the desert. Just threw them all out there.
Oh.
So some of them we were able to recover. Some of them did not. A lot of rats. This big mess. But there was a little melanistic atrox now, who is now a cold bitch of a snake.
Still awesome though. Awesome.
I like her.
And that's something I just never understood because Florida is obviously infamous for people letting stuff go. I get that, but in my personal opinion, the media makes it way worse than it actually is. Yes. Yeah. But that does not negate the fact that it has not happened in quite a lot of scenarios. But I will say this: I never understood the concept of I spent money on this animal and all of its accoutrement, and then I've spent time and love and passion and more money in food and maintenance and husbandry, and then I just ditch it in the woods like that. I never understood that. Like, why wouldn't you at least try and sell it and get some more money, or give it to somebody?
Yep. I mean, you'd think that, it's all impulse buys. I mean, I guess that's we do presentations at reptile expos, and we have really good relationships with some. And I grew up keeping snakes too, so I don't look down on that. But the thing that I don't like seeing is when I see like at a reptile expo and there's like a tank of like 50 baby corn snakes and they're $10 each, and it's like bargain bin stuff. That's a snake that will live for 30 years, you know. And when you're if you don't, so it's not much. Yeah, they did spend some money on it, but it's not much, and it's not positioned to be that. They're positioned as these kind of disposable animals. So I think you get what you get on that. We're never called out to go pick up expensive morphs. We're never called out to go pick up expensive snakes. It is the
right
thing that you get for $20 at the shop, But I mean,
the Xanthic tiger rattler you've not found yet.
I might hang on to that, But
right,
and we're fortunate here just because things can't live, like you're probably right. It's not like things get out at a higher rate in Florida than they do in anywhere else. It's just that like our things, they go out the front door and immediately die.
And I can say I've not done nearly the amount of snake calls that you've done. Obviously, I don't do this for a living, and I maybe have done less than 50 my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost always either a rattlesnake or a python in their mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a rattlesnake. Oh, it's a rattlesnake. And of those times, I think it maybe 2 or 3 times it's actually been a rattlesnake species, whether it be pygmy or eastern or whatever. But I always get it's a python, it's a python, it's a python. And twice it was an actual python. The first time was a ball python. And again, like you said, beef jerky, emaciated, full of bugs all over it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other time was a red-tailed boa. And it could not have been escaped for more than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because it was just mint condition, perfect. It was definitely like a designer style. And yes,
I feel bad for those ones because that's just someone's They probably
Yeah.
didn't, it's an accident.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'll try. I mean,
Yeah.
if we do something like that, we'll try to find the owner if we can.
Sure. Knocking a couple doors, ring a couple doorbells.
It depends. So I'll tell you our worst one that we ever had. And it wasn't like, it's just a bad story. We got called, there was a 10-foot retic in a backyard, and it had eaten something. It was a cat. It had eaten a cat. So our guys go out there with their 5-gallon bucket, and they're like, this is not going to work. So they borrow like a neighbor kid's like plastic tote, and they get this snake into the thing, and they bring it over to me because they don't know what the hell to do with it. And our unwritten rule here is if there's something that is, if it's a big, if it's a big snake like that and we catch it and it's eating a cat, you've lost your big snake privileges. We're not going to go looking for you. We'll put it somewhere else.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
So we had, I was going herping for the weekend. So I'll stuff them in the snake room, which was in my house at the time. And I'll deal with it when I come back. Came back, opened the door to a wall of a smell, just a thick, gooey.
Yeah.
The snake had thrown up the cat and then just sat there for a few days. So that was gross. So I just like peek in there and I just see like, like, So I'm not dealing with any of this. We're going to find the owner of this thing. We found him really quick. So he showed up at the same time that the guy that wanted his like tub back, because they were neighbors, they came together.
Oh.
And like, and I'm like, just take it. And they like wanted to like take the snake out. And like, so he picks up, it's like, I can handle anything. He like looks in there and immediately just throws up in my front yard because the smell of the snake. I was going to like try to like look and see if there's a collar or something, like, what I was gonna do, but like that, as soon as I smelled that, I'm like, sorry, cat.
It's that sweet snake gurge. Ugh.
Yeah, it's 30% poop, 30% vomit, and 30% death mixed in like a nice stomach acidy matrix, and it's
just
not
swamped in that tub. Oof.
Yeah, it's not good. So I just gave him the whole tub and like get it out of
here. Yeah.
But
you did the right thing.
That's the only thing to do.
Yep. Yeah, that's what he gets for having his snake get loose.
Yeah, that's it, I guess. I mean, he got his snake back. But, it's not many. And one of these days we haven't got any. We've never actually gotten any invasive or non-native venomous, which is good.
Excellent. That's good.
Because our team does not. I've worked with wild cobra, not in any captive scenario. We don't have any training for it. We'd pass that on to somebody else. Even if it's doable, it's definitely like, it's not the kind of thing we want any like on the job training for. It's something we would do otherwise. It's that is one of the hard things about this too, is that like our insurance company hates us because they don't
actually. So
so we have to do everything in this really tight box of, here's all the things, here's our training regimen, here's exactly how this is done. Never deviate from it, and that's how we can actually exist as a business instead of a nonprofit.
Yeah, interesting. Do you keep any crowfab or enivitment or anything on hand?
No.
Okay.
And it doesn't actually benefit me at all. In Phoenix, there's very ample supply all over the place. Both the FDA approved antivenoms for everything. If I kept a cobra, if I kept anything that needed it, I would absolutely.
Sure.
But everything here is treatable with Antivip or crowfab, which there's no benefit. So,
sure, okay, very cool, man. It's crazy, like just thinking about going back to like stories and crazy scenarios and the things that humans do and the things we have to stop them from doing, and it makes you reminisce about stories of yesteryear and some of the things that we may have done or friends may have done. But I think that I look back at when I was 15, 20 years ago, and the way that people looked at snakes and the way that people looked at me with snakes, and I look at the people now, and I want to say I feel that what you're doing and the little bit that me and some of my friends and colleagues do, I want to say it's working. I want to say it's helping. You know what I mean? And just watching your videos on Instagram, whether they be, 10 seconds or 60 seconds, whatever it is, you can hear the homeowner's, voice inflection. You can hear they're like, oh, wow. Oh, that's cool. All right. Oh, nice. And I know you have a couple of videos of like you caught a gopher snake and they come over and they touch the gopher snake as scared as they may be, or apprehensive as they may be. And I think that that's really cool, man.
Yeah, I hope that's kind of we're noticed that too, and we don't know if it's something that we just kind of hope to see or if it's something we're actually noticing. But I guess Gila monsters are probably the thing where that's the most pronounced, where we can see the most. And I remember very much when I'm not going to take credit for any of this. I just think it's a cultural change. I think herpers in general have a lot to do with this. But Gila monsters in 2010, I remember people shot them a lot more. I remember doing a lot more body recoveries of Gila monsters than we did removals. And now someone posts a picture of a Gila monster in their yard on Facebook and the little community group or on Nextdoor. Everyone loves it. And if that person would hurt that Gila monster, they would, who cares about the ticket that they would get? It's the social ramifications for hurting a Gila monster.
Yeah.
If a couple of years ago, a girl did that in Tucson. She found a Gila monster in her yard and she shoved a screwdriver through its head. And Game & Fish wasn't going to do anything about it. But they had to, because the community that, it was on everybody was in uproar. And that is a new thing. That is a new thing that would not have happened, 10 or 15 years ago. So I'm hoping that sea change is going to be involving rattlesnakes soon. I think I'm starting to see the very beginnings of that, to where if you see a rattlesnake, it is a point of pride because you're from this place where we have more rattlesnakes than anywhere, and it's something really cool. And I don't care if they like it or not, as long as they pretend to like it and don't kill it.
Sure.
Good with me,
Yeah, man. The difference, telling someone to either leave it alone, and if you for whatever reason had to mess with it, you could push it away with a broom.
Yeah.
Like that, I know, at least by me, has saved so many corn snakes, so many yellow rat snakes, so many water snakes, and it's like you said, I can't imagine. I don't think I have any species by me, at least reptilian, where if, somebody killed it in their yard, the community would be in an uproar. But it warms my heart to know that was the case with the Gila in that scenario. Yeah,
it's great.
Especially since law enforcement wasn't going to do anything to it.
It's just that dumb law. All you have to do is say you're scared of it. The old it was coming right for me type of thing. Right? So there's laws on the books that you're not supposed to be able to kill any of these animals, really. But all you have to do is say, well, I was scared of it, so that's why I sawed its head off slowly and lit it on fire, because I was scared of it, and that holds up. So it's
the Guinness Book of World Records slowest lizard chased me inside my home and attempted to murder me.
We get so many liars of that stuff too. Like firefighter, like I had a firefighter that told me that before they catch Gila monsters, they have to let it chase them around the truck a few times to tire it out before they can wrestle it in. And
really,
a lot of people that miss. There are perception errors and misreads, and then there are liars, and it's a lot of liars. It's an interesting thing how it's such an important role, and they don't know you're going to know. Well, they should. That's a bit of human interest, is that somebody will come up to somebody at a booth at a show, or that is putting themselves out there as an expert on this animal, and lie directly to them as if you're not going to be able to tell that they're full of it.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like he had a really defensive male collared lizard that wasn't having that fire truck that day.
Or he just completely made it up.
Exactly. He just, and the probability of him making it up is way higher.
There's there's people that they say things with, so we did a thing with the size of snakes. So when you're trying to get with people, I saw a 12-foot snake. We have a 46-inch Cerberus, so it's a big Cerberus, And for a number of years, we had it in a little 10 by 10 box at our shows, and had a little card box next to it. Tell us how big this snake is in inches. And you can do whatever you want. So people are like holding up dollar bills and using their cell phones and measuring apps and stuff, trying to figure this out. We got hundreds of responses ranging from 18 inches to 20 feet. And people, you might think those are trolling, but we got like all the little officials too. So when challenged by people that know about snakes, this was at a reptile show, reptile shows included, people still had they had no idea, but there's a confidence level. So if you looked at, how wide one of these racks are, I don't know, 5 feet, 2 feet. I have no idea. But if it's a snake, people are like, that was 3 feet long and 10 inches. Exactly. I know it. Don't question that, because I grew up with a tape measure. I know exactly what that is.
8 inches around.
Yeah, 8 inches long. Or it was as wide as the road, which means it was on the road. And
exactly.
3 feet.
How big's each lane is 12 feet, and that went from one yellow line to the other yellow line, so it's got to be at least 11 foot. It's like, okay,
like the redneck math that comes in when they start doing all that.
Yeah,
it's all
like, I love telling people. You ever notice how the farther straight you look on the road gets skinnier? You ever notice that?
It was way down there. It was only 20 feet long.
Yeah, man. That's great. Well, sir, we are at an hour and 40 minutes. Where can people find you?
So actually, of the things, our Instagram is the one that I pay the least attention to. It's kind of on autopilot. It gets reposts from our Facebook page. So our Instagram, I think it's just at Rattlesnake Solutions.
Right.
Our Facebook page, where it's a lot more active, and that's where I do a lot of talking, and I do a lot of live videos of releases, which is important because I know there's a lot of people that do relocation work, and to do it properly, you need to know exactly where to put the snakes. So I outline that a lot. So that's just at facebook.com/snake removal. And our TikTok page is at rattlesnakes.az, and website rattlesnakesolutions.com. Or if you just look up anything related to Arizona rattlesnakes, you will find us at one point or another.
Nice. Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. A wealth of knowledge. I know I'm going to keep watching Facebook and Instagram. And
yeah, I'm glad, man.
Dude, I still can't get over the collection in the background behind you. Like, that's just supremely impressive. So
yeah,
we're definitely going to have to do this again in the future and get a little more in depth.
Yeah, for sure. I'll walk you around it. And next, if you're ever in Phoenix again, hanging out with Rachel, let me know. We'll get out and go see some cool stuff.
I'm definitely overdue. My good friend Brooke, she's a zookeeper down here in Florida. Her and I went out to visit Rachel, and we did a bunch of herping, and we barely saw anything, but the stuff we saw was all baby stuff and neonate stuff, and it was right after a super bloom, so it was very cool. But we're definitely overdue to go back. So when I do, I'm definitively hitting you up.
Okay, cool, man.
So. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. This is Snakes and Stogies, episode 86, brought to you by the fine people, the Gendra at Puget Sound Pythons, right there in the corner. Check them out. And Justin and Jake will be back Thursday night for the Herpetoculture podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we are exactly 11 days away from the National Breeders' Expo in Daytona, Florida. So put your drinking hats on, kids. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Brian, thank you again so much for coming on, and we'll talk more soon, man.
All right. Take it easy.
So thank you. Have a good night.
All right, bye.
Bye, everybody.